People have been telling me to check out Infinity Train for years now. I've now seen the first season, and I seriously regret every time, once I had the ability to watch it, once I got HBO Max, every time I thought, maybe I'll start that, and then did something else instead. Massive regret. Because this is so good. Now, look, if you've seen the other seasons, because, I'm new in on this, so if you're a fan of the show, you've probably seen the other seasons already. Do not talk about events in the comments. Not with each other, not with me, because I get alerts for this stuff, okay? I already had this problem on Twitter. I said how much I liked the first season, and people replied to that tweet and then started replying to each other, talking about stuff in later seasons. Don't do that. So, in case you don't know and haven't seen, what is Infinity Train? Well, it is it's a series that is now available on HBO Max. It was done on Cartoon Network. Per episode, it's about 11 minutes per episode, and there's 10 of them. So, honestly, it's about the length of a movie. A little less than 2 hours altogether. Well, no, about 2 hours. About 2 hours on the dot, actually. I can do math. So, if you wanted to binge it all in one go, incredibly doable. I didn't, and I kind of, as a viewing experience, I liked taking breaks and soaking in what I'd seen up to that point. For me, that enhanced the experience, but, it's very bingeable. I think I got through the whole thing in 3 sessions. But, broad strokes, it deals with a young girl. We don't get an age on her. The impression I get from her is, early teens or just about to cross into, proper teenager. So, 12 to 14, at a guess. So, she is having a bit of a troubled home life. She is into programming and game design and has been excited to go to this camp for it. But there's been some confusion with scheduling and transport between her divorced parents, and now it looks like she can't actually go. Just because things got messed up. Like they do, because life happens. And in her frustration, she flees the house. Run away would be too harsh a thing. She's not like, I'm leaving and never coming back. She's like, it's her intent to try and hoof it to this camp, which, nah, that's too far away. But she ends up stumbling across this train and boarding it. And then madness ensues. And if you haven't watched it, I kind of want to leave it at that. I will make a comparison before I start talking about any of it. Because honestly, other than that premise, she's in this train, every car is A, massive, and B, basically has a completely different world in it. And there appears to be a never-ending stop to the cars. And how many of them there are. Infinity Train. Ha. So, the comparison I'll make, I don't know how many people have actually watched this, but in case you have, I think this will help sell it to you without needing to know anymore. It's like a sci-fi version of Over the Garden Wall. Because it has that similar overall vibe of, a lead character who's in a place that they feel like I shouldn't be here, and it's very off-putting, and each episode can be in a different setting with different stuff going on, but overall there is a sense of intrigue and mystery to the thing as a whole. If you try and follow logically what's going on at every point, you won't be able to do it. It is going for a more surreal bent, but this is, as I said, a sci-fi flavored version of that. And no, even if you've seen Over the Garden Wall and know how that ends, no, I didn't spoil anything, because I'm talking about feel and flavor and vibe, not actual plot progression. Okay? Cool. So, that having been said, I'm now going to talk about some of the specifics, which again, if you haven't seen it, it sounds intriguing. I really think you should watch it before hearing anything I'm going to say. All right, let's go. So the characters, first of all, are lovely. Tulip is pretty well done. I'm not going to say she's my favorite protagonist in recent years. Luz Nacera takes that one easily. But she is pretty well developed, and they do a good balance of her having impulsive emotion reactions that often drive poor decisions, but not ever pushing that so hard that it feels like a narrative contrivance, and that the writers decide, oh, she gets flustered and does something stupid because that's the only way they can see to move the plot forward. Which is honestly a very big risk with especially the sort of younger characters in the ways they tend to get written. They tend to get written making stupid decisions because they're emotional and flustered. I'm not saying she doesn't do that. She does, but they don't overdo that. She doesn't double down. If she realizes she's screwed up, she's gonna okay, wait a minute, wait a second. So she's capable of realizing the consequences of what's going on, and she doesn't always do these big emotional reactions. So when it happens, it feels appropriate and it's not overplayed. So I like her. She's cool. I really enjoy 1-1, the little robot, little spherical robot. Initially, when he showed up and started talking, he's got the two voices, the very upbeat one, oh, all right, and the very down and depressed one that sounds like Marvin the paranoid android. And initially I was like, ooh, is this gonna get old? But actually, the more I heard those two voices and the more they played off each other, and the more that on occasion the show would subvert my expectation of which one would come up with which sentiment or what they were gonna say, I ended up really liking him, especially by the end. So I enjoyed 1-1 a lot. Seriously though, Atticus. Atticus is the king of Corginia, which is a nation of corgis. He's a corgi with a crown, and he's voiced by Ernie Hudson. So I have my favorite Ghostbuster, and Ghostbusters is my favorite movie, and he's voicing a talking dog with a crown, and I'm so happy. Just the fact that exists, and I can say that as a sentence, I am so happy. So I love all that. It does a really good job of blending whimsical and threatening. Because the sense of threat is never that far away, but as they go into various cars, or oftentimes at the start of episodes where we see them exiting a car and see what they just left, because we don't follow them continuously. There's gaps in time between episodes mostly. And, we see what they just left. We realize, boy, there's some crazy. That's just wonderful and silly. And you can even see the characters appreciate some of the things that they experience and see. So they have that, but then when the story needs to feel ominous and threatening and something's wrong here, it can pull that off very well, and it's able to flow from one mood to the other extremely effectively. The train itself can flip on a dime from feeling almost comforting to feeling like the single biggest hazard in and of itself, just the train. And there's some other nifty characters. There's the cat, who I did enjoy. Not as much as Atticus. I mean, come on. But the cat was fun. And I did like her. I will say I'm gonna get into real spoilers now, so I really hope go watch it. So I'm a little I'm not 100% on the villain. Not because there was really anything wrong with her in a vacuum, but I think it's one of those things that's more about patterns and tropes, and it pulled an angle that I'm just kind of tired of seeing. Especially in kids media, it feels more prevalent. But, so the villain ultimately, well, first of all, the villain proper doesn't really get introduced until, the 7th episode out of 10. And then when we get a background on it, it's basically a personal loss and tragedy turned them into a monster kind of thing. And to be fair, there was a little bit more to it than that. We get the sense of frustration that this character had probably helped tumble them down a rabbit hole. What they thought would be possible on the train, what is actually possible, them trying to force this existence to be what they want it to be, and the way that parallels Tulip's own frustration with her home life. Like, those connections are made, and they're good ones to make. But I'm just kind of done with evil people who are only bad because of trauma. I understand the need, especially in something aimed at a somewhat younger audience, to address the potential hazards of holding on to damage and baggage and your trauma, too much, and letting that truly drive your life. I'm not saying that's an invaluable lesson, but it's getting really old for me as a motivator for villains, that we find out, why is this villain doing this? Well, they have a tragic backstory. Of course they do. They always do. Like, you can make interesting and dynamic and even conflicted villains without having to ultimately have it boil down to tragedy then supervillain. Like, I'm kind of tired of it. You can add that. I'm not quite at the level as I am with some of these, but you can add that along with Chosen Ones and Prophecies and Fridging. As just, I'm not gonna say it never works. I'm just tired of it. Like, it's become one of those things that even when I see it done well, which this is done decently, to be fair, but just the core of what it is it's doing, like, I don't want it anymore. Like, I'm good for that kind of explanation. That really is my only complaint, though, is the backstory on the villain. And even that, has to do with just me being tired of it as an angle to take a villain from. It's not an actual problem with the story, and if you're not as sick of it as I am, then, like, it may not be a problem for you at all, because it's not executed badly. I'm good. I'm good. That's enough. So, I am going to keep moving forward. I have, unfortunately, as I said, already stumbled across spoilers. I know that the second season deals with Mirror Tulip, which, like, that's an interesting thing to pick up on. I'll be really curious to see how that turns out, but, kind of wish I didn't know in advance. But whatever. I will definitely come back and talk about this thing more as I get into more of them. No promises that it's going to be immediate. I do have a lot of stuff going on, but oh boy, this is good. Infinity Train. What do you think of it? Season 1. Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Like, share, subscribe. I have a Patreon. That is how I'm able to pay for HBO Max and food and be able to do all this. Any amount you're able to help me does assist. There are rewards for every tier, but no pressure. Take a relaxed attitude around here so you can just come on back next time you need a break.